Let's just start this thing up. We're just going to rock and roll.
Let's go.
All right, you're here with us, Purple Politics. We got Nikolai Zeppa in the place. He's the founder of the Astral Network, CEO of Stationary Astronaut. I don't know if he's like from an intergalactic spot. I don't know. So we have him. We do have him on a video feed and a sound feed here today, but I don't know if you're on the moon. Like, where are you at? How you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good. I'm up in the Twin Cities today at one of our headquarters at Peak Health.
Oh,
I am lucky enough to be stationed here as well when I'm in the Twin Cities. I just got out of the hyperbaric chamber, so wasn't quite the moon, but I think there was a little more oxygen than on the moon getting pumped into that hyperbaric chamber. So that's where I'm located.
the hyperbaric. Do you feel that immediate, or is it something that's like a prolonged type of thing with your health?
To be honest, a lot of people with traumatic brain injuries, people who with history of concussions can notice quite a quick difference. I personally have had a lot of concussions in my days, so I notice it rather quickly as long as I consistently hop in there 2 to 3 times a week. But I don't stop there. I'm also doing cold therapy, which is cold plunges, ice baths, and then also sauna therapy. Actually, after I got out of the hyperbaric, I went into the red light room. So take those UVs in and do that for 15 minutes, stand on a vibrating plate. And then if I'm really feeling frisky, I'll hop in the cryogenic chamber.
So what facility are you at?
I'm at Peak Health. Peak Health is a new facility in the Twin Cities. It is basically, it's set to enhance people who are have a lot of inflammation in their body, because 100% of onset disease comes from inflammation. And so this place, they'll put you on this computer machine that runs an internal MRI. It's like 5 doctor visits in 5 minutes, literally. And then it prints out your scope, and it gives you obviously your BMI, but it also gives you inflammatory levels inside your body. And then what you do is you kind of work with these people, and then they start kind of running you through a method to, whether it be for cryo, for hyperbaric, whatever that may be, whatever you need specifically. They also have this new fit machine for people who are athletes who are training. You can get the most out of it. This place is kind of, it's state of the art. It is one of its kind. It's just kind of going to lead the charge in regards to human enhancement here in Minnesota. And we've already had a lot of people. We just had a couple people in from LA last week, athletes. We have a lot of athletes coming through here. Cheryl's comes through here. So yeah, we're really doing it here, man.
That's awesome. Because there's a facility similar to that in Rochester now, right? Not similar, but it's an athletic facility down there.
Yeah, so Cheryl's my partner, co-owner of Stationary Astronaut, owns ETS facility down in Rochester, which is an elite training facility.
Okay.
Him and Adam Thielen actually own that spot together. Adam Thielen and Ryan Engelbert are the founders of the umbrella company, and then you'll have franchise locations like the one Cheryl's owns with Thielen down in Rochester.
Okay.
So they don't have any like state-of-the-art equipment like hyperbaric chambers and things like that, or electrotherapy. There it's basically just strategized specific training for your sport.
It's just sports performance facility.
Yep.
Okay. Got it. Yeah, I didn't want to mistake those two things. So it's Peak Performance in Minneapolis.
Yes, it's in Bloomington, Minnesota, just south of Minneapolis.
Got it. Okay. Who is it that started that?
My boy Josh Savage. He is owner of Hero Plumbing as well, which is arguably the top plumbing company in the Twin Cities. And this guy is so ahead of the curve in regards to taking care of his employees. It all started with, he looked at the bottom line and said, hey, if I can provide my employees with chiro services and things like in-house chiro services and things like that, then if I can get them back on the job within 2 to 3 days instead of 2 weeks, and they're already making me say $2,000 to $5,000 a day per employee, well, guess what? I'm going to utilize that, and I'm going to take care of my employees. Imagine a world where we had restaurateurs who took care of their employees' feet and got them all good feet shoe inserts, or had a podiatrist in their life like your father, And you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, for
imagine
sure.
the world where these restaurateurs and these business owners actually looked at the bottom line of like, wait a minute. One, I'm going to have happy customers or happy employees. And two, they're going to be able to serve our customer base better. And three, they're actually going to lead a healthy lifestyle where their family is better. That butterfly effect just takes place. I'm taking care of not just them, I'm taking care of their families. I'm taking care of their employees just because I'm taking care of their physical body.
Yeah. And I think it's so important. Like, people have talked about like social media cleanses. They're talking about, work-life balance, like all these different things. And, in some mainstream formats, we do see people talking about physical health, mental health in the ways that you are, but not enough people are really, I think, bringing that into practice all the time. Like, I'm on like a little 30-day cleanse where I'm just doing like juices in the morning. I will do like either chicken or shrimp at night, but everything else is surrounded by greens, and it's just specifically focused on, no alcohol and cutting out all like different red meats, different carbs, and all the things that are really fun. And I definitely like incorporating them into my diet majority of the time. But when we kind of take a step back and, start thinking about, going in the sauna, getting in a cryo chamber, it's unbelievable to see what that not only does for your body, but also does for your mind. It's crazy.
It really is. And you kind of hit the head on. I'm doing a cleanse right now as well. Mine's a 3-day fast.
Okay.
Today is my day one. And then I start a 6-week cleanse starting on Saturday. And honestly, like, I do this thing called Off the Grid August every year, which is a social media cleanse like you spoke of. And I call it like a spiritual recalibration. So when you disconnect from other people's opinions, because let's not get it twisted. Now more than ever, people are more connected, and digitally they're more connected. And when you have that, you have talking heads. So what that means is there's opinions being thrown out into the ether, and we haven't even fully analyzed the effect that has, because it used to be where you would have like the major stations, you'd have the late night talk show, and that was basically beyond the local news. That was your talking head, right?
Right.
Then you had like the Howard Sterns and things like that. Now everybody and their mother has a podcast. Everybody and their mother has an online show. Everybody and their mother is doing Zoom meetups. Everybody and their mother is doing something right now. So what that means is there's a lot of bleh. There's a lot of mouth diarrhea going on. So
100%.
when you're forced to extrapolate on that and really like pull it apart, really what it means is I don't have the energy to pull apart all these opinions. So this is my 5th year. My 5th year doing Off the Grid August. And honestly, LJ, like, it's very tough for a person like me because we run digital accounts for companies. So I'm running campaigns right now. I've got businesses popping. What that means is I have to be very cognizant about the digital media that I'm soaking up.
Yeah.
Because as you know, we're all sponges. So if I'm going to be soaking up all this digital content, I need to be very careful because everybody's got an opinion.
Yeah, but it's also, I think a lot of us are we're all looking to find truth online all the time. The reason I'm doing this is I think this is kind of a fun video journal. I want to be able to look back in 10 years and be like, yo, remember when I was talking with Nick and we were just talking about life in the middle of this craziness. But there's a lot of people, and I do this myself. I do this myself all the time, so I shouldn't even speak for anybody else. But where you are online on Instagram or on YouTube, trying to like educate yourself, trying to keep up with trends, keep up with conversations, keep up with where the world's at. And that there is places for that, and it absolutely works. But you can also turn back around. You can go across the street and talk to your neighbor. You can go just on a longer walk and bring up conversation while you're there. And you can learn a lot about the world in those spaces. And in some ways, which is like kind of the old way, that's actually like, I think the way that it was supposed to be done. And through those more long-winded experiences, we can learn so much about ourselves. We can feel more connected to our community. And a lot of the interactions that we're hoping to get online, which never actually come back to us, and with making us feel surrounded by love and hope and generosity. You can experience that in 2 minutes outside, where you could search all day on the internet and you're never going to find it.
Yeah, I've really been hammering home this idea of reconnecting with our neighbors, because more than ever, people are disconnected politically, where like, even like now there's a far left. It used to be like far right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Now there's also a far left. So if you're not fitting a certain criteria, and you're online sharing points of view, that's where you can honestly be kind of like creating enemies in your neighborhood that you don't even know exist. And people are not being very aware of that. And how you can nip that is literally shaking hands with your neighbors, making cookies for your neighbors, holding space with your neighbors, having campfires with your neighbors, allowing your dog to go say hi to your neighbors, and then using that opportunity when you have to go grab him to find out what your neighbor's first name is.
Right.
You get my drift? Because we have this, I've seen this upswing in obviously real estate being sold and bought. And what that means is you're getting a lot of new neighbors. And honestly, bro, in the last 2 years we've been in our house in Uptown Rochester, I've had each one of my neighbors from across the street to behind us to next to us. We have a corner house. We've gotten two new neighbors, 3 across the street, and then 3 across their neighbors, 3 across the street. So that's a lot of upheaval in regards to new neighbors. So is that the feng shui of the neighborhood? Who knows? I don't know how the meridian lines sit, but at the same time, what that means is that's a lot of new faces. That's a lot of new experiences for my dog, because I have a big German Shepherd who freaks out. You know, he's a nice boy, but at the same time, he's basically creating opportunity for me to get to know my neighbors.
100%. And where it seems so scary to go say hi to a new neighbor, go walk across the street, we all have to realize that same neighbor is just like us. We walk behind our door, we lay down on the couch, we put our phone in front of us, and we start scrolling and looking for deeper meaning, deeper connection. Like, we're all doing the same things, but we're not creating the appropriate change within our day-to-day life, within our own community, to create that environment that we deeply desire, that we're searching for online. It's right across the street from you. I get it that there's a lot of introverts in the world, but I think even those people would love the idea of having that neighborhood that has at least a barbecue once a year where people want to actually get together. You know, it's not like this forced type of thing that's put on by like a committee. It's just put on by the group of people that live there and say, hey, let's all get together. Let's chat. These are important habits to start building back into our community if we're going to be able to get anywhere. People are talking about darn civil war right now. It's like, and no, like that can't happen. We have to fight against these types of things. And luckily, it can happen with just saying hi. It can just start talking, just having a laugh, sharing a beer, whatever it is, sharing a smoothie with someone.
I've been thinking lately that mandatory mask wearing is like the in-person social media effect. Does that make sense?
Not quite.
When you're unable to see people's facial expressions, that you're basically, the only experiences you're having or interactions you're having is kind of like a social media experience where like there's a disconnect there. Does that make sense?
Well, because I am like the most extroverted person ever. You are too. And I still have different levels of intimidation or fear of just being like, hey, how are you doing today? Because I don't know how concerned someone is with coronavirus. Even if we're speaking through a mask and we're 6 feet away, I don't know if like how loud I say it, they're going to be scared that I'm like spitting at them, or maybe they just want to get in and out. But man, I know when I go back to Minnesota and when the masks are off and everyone's saying hi, that's a different type of almost spiritual experience that we're all void of right now. So we're all in a deeper level of isolation because of the need to wear masks when you're in crowded spaces.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's tough because, as you know, we throw events and we had to pivot completely during COVID, and still, like, we had to nip everything. We don't know when we're going to be able to go back to bringing people together. And what it has done is, I feel bad because on a daily basis, we're getting hit up. Nick, when's the next Lincoln drink? When's the next Lincoln drink? And I don't know if you know, but we signed on a year deal with the Walker Arts Center in Minneapolis for a year. And,
oh, no way.
Yeah, so we signed on for them, with them for a year. Our first one was going to be March 22nd or something, and then we pivoted and moved it to April, and then we finally just had to nip it and just could not do it because we weren't sure where COVID was going to go initially.
Sure.
It was 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
So nowadays, like, we're just getting, because we still have, we sold it out. You know, our 8th one was sold out.
Yeah.
And people have, no one wants their refund. We probably had like 5 people want refunds. And what that means is people are holding on to hope to reconnect. You get my drift? And we're talking, this is 350 people who are just like chomping at the bit. And when they hit us up, they're like, they're not asking for their money back. They're 20, 25 bucks. They're like, please, we need this. We need this. We need the connection. And what I'm seeing, honestly, is like this stir crazy. So like, I'm seeing people who might have been center left, LJ, they are now moving far left. And what that means is there's this maniacal setting taking place, where people are just kind of losing grips of things. And it's tough for me, someone who is a psychonaut, who talks people off cliffs, who takes people on journeys. I am being forced to like just sit back. Like yesterday, I don't know if you saw, but like I literally had to point out, like, you guys, because of how we've allowed media and social media to hijack this thing, we will never not get an update of the next big virus. Oh no, we got to turn our mask lights back on. You're going to start seeing lights on the front of buildings where mask on, mask off. You know, like, you're literally going to start seeing that, to the point it just shows how unhealthy and uncivilized as a society as we are, because what happened immediately, people didn't want to play ball with the guidelines, and there was blurry guidelines. Our governor couldn't even make a decision to save his soul. So then that trickles down from the top. So here we sit now where it's like, you don't know if you should, you don't know if you shouldn't. You have kids who won't be going back to school. Imagine being a 7-year-old right now who just had an awesome kindergarten year that got cut short. And now he's not being allowed to go back to see his friends or her friends. And their parents are, I literally just read a thread this morning from all my girlfriends who have young kids. And they're like, I think I have to quit my job just so I can homeschool my kid.
Right.
There's no order. We're seeing it with the NFL right now. There's no order. NBA did it good. They have obviously a smaller team size, so they're able to bubble out. But the thing is we have no order, LJ. We've had this entire summer for teachers to create a private union outside of their regular union and maybe go rent a commercial space and do what they have to do to recreate the educational system, because Betsy DeVos doesn't have their back.
But what nobody wants to have the conversation of is, okay, 6 feet of separation, mask on every kid, 25% of the kids in the class rotating in and out. No one wants to have the appropriate conversation of, that can't happen. I don't care how many people go and strategize in every single school, every single teacher, every single educator in the country is sitting around focusing on, how would we open the classes again? You can't. Based on our current expectations, which is mask, 6 feet, 25% people in spaces, you can't do it. It's not going to happen. So we have to come to some sort of reason where it's okay, don't open up the classrooms you're in and just tell us. I don't think that's a good decision, because I actually think that makes disenfranchised kids more worse off than they already were. So I thought we're trying to save kids and create better education in the schools, and now we're eliminating education in the country for an entire year. If I had any, and I also don't really like our federal government governing everything all the time, but I would say everyone has to wear a mask, and then we have to get back to normal. I would kind of try to meet in the middle where, okay, let's say masks work 100% or whatever, 25%, fine. There's some level of degree that masks do help. That's why in any environment that I'm in, I wear a mask. Even though I do think that the mask of whether or not you go in or out of something, I think it should be governed by the specific location. And I'm cool with like saying like, okay, grocery stores, everybody has to wear a mask. So there's different essential environments where if you are exposed to somebody with some sort of immune disorder, you still have to go get these different resources. Boom. That's a mask zone. I also, if I were Whole Foods and I was in these larger environments, I would locate the spots with the most dense populations that I would say, this is the immune depleted Whole Foods in our entire region. If you want the goods and you want to be safer than safe, this is your spot. Designate some level of space that's even another level of crazy that we could never even govern. Actually give us what we need for those different environments. But then I also think proprietors that own jewelry stores that only would have one customer in at a time anyway, they can still go, if you walk into my store, I don't want you to wear a mask. And if you don't wear, if you care, don't come. So it's really a difficult scenario, but when it comes, that's too long of a rant, but getting back to schools, I think that it's really tough for people to realize that we have to make a choice actually with this. Are we going to be scared of this virus, which is fine. If we make that choice, we're not going back to school for an entire year, and let's just get used to that. Or if we're willing to confront it and just walk through the process of the fear of it, we got to go all the way back to school, and we just got to put a mask on while we do it.
Yeah, as you know, I focus on childhood trauma, and as soon as we heal childhood trauma, then we're able to heal people's eating disorders, obviously their mental disorders, things like that. So last year we had Dr. Gabor Mate come out to Rochester for our second installment of Where the Minds Meet, right? And this is a dude who wrote the book Hold On to Your Kids and things like that. And I really feel, I'm tapping into the Gabor Mate vein right now. I really feel that this situation with the schools and where they're putting up these plastic barricades, they're having these kids wear masks, their teachers are wearing face shields, that's trauma in its own right. I really feel that, these schools are petri dishes. It's kind of like a rite of passage. You go to school, you strengthen your immune system by eventually getting the cold, eventually getting the flu, things like that. And then you just bounce back, and then you become an adult and you rarely get sick, right? If you have a healthy immune system. So we have these kids who are going to face this situation where it's totally abnormal. Their parents are going to be overly stressed. They already are. I don't think personally, just from speaking from where I am in the purple range, right in the middle where we float, yeah. I honestly think it's not worth it. These kids are going to bounce back. They're very strong. If you have immune compromised kids, typically the kids who can't be around peanut butter, keep their asses at home. Okay.
Sure.
But the majority of them, oh, Bubba, we got to get these kids back in school because it's beyond the education. They need the social interaction.
And I think it's almost time. It's literally getting so weird at this point where young, healthy people need to almost, like, I think the NBA bubble should actually be like this. When you get to the bubble, we give you Corona. Everyone then quarantines for 14 days, gets over it, and the NBA no longer has Corona. They're no longer, it doesn't attach. I get that they're saying that you can get it twice. Prove it. Prove it. Not enough yet. It's hard enough to get it, let alone get it twice. So if it's going to be our generation's stake, if this is our World War II, me and you being heroes in this situation is actually going and getting the virus and then getting back to work. I know that's a crazy thought, but it's almost coming down to it.
Yeah, it really is, because like a lot of people started throwing in the towel like around, let's see here, around April, more around May. They started throwing in the towel and just saying, F it, we're gonna throw Corona parties and just like see if we get it, let's just roll the dice, baby. But honestly, like, yeah, we could take that approach, but I'm in the big immune system reboot kick where I focus on Dr. Zach Bush. What's he doing? He is talking all about, like, Rogan just had Weinstein on his podcast as well. He's like, dude, this is a different kind of virus. It definitely came from a lab, because typically, I think I'm going to butcher this, but it fizzles out around 100,000 people if it certainly did come from a bat. Eventually, like, herd immunity kicks in and people just beat another virus. Let's not get it twisted. This is COVID-19, right? So that means there's been other versions, you know? Yeah. So when you think about it, though, like, vitamin D deficiency has been a topic that hasn't been talked about at all. Now, I supplement vitamin D religiously, always have since I was like 17, 18 when I get the fall funk. So that's just been a part of my regimen. Green smoothies, part of my regimen. So why aren't we talking about this? Why aren't we talking about strengthening people's immune systems? Man, I get to be around professional athletes all the time, right? I am so shocked at they're fearful of supplementation because of the testing that they have to go through. And as you know, supplements are not FDA regulated. So that means that they're rolling the dice every single time they take an over-the-counter supplement.
Well, you just got to go to trusted brands, though. There's enough trusted brands out there.
Exactly. But there's this fear complex in their brain where they're like, I don't know, and this is my career. I cannot risk it. And it's like, wait a minute. What if these professional franchises were supplementing you with things like vitamin D, with things like zinc, with turmeric, with ginkgo, with ginseng, where they trust their source, where it's third-party tested, they go through that regimen. Like, there is no reason that we shouldn't be being proactive with supplementation. And dude, I'm telling you, like, right, I got reamed a couple weeks ago in regards to, it is known. So people who have higher amounts of melanin in their skin, because their bloodline comes from an equatorial situation, their bloodlines, their genetics have literally morphed to be able to fight off too much sun. So what that means, when they live in the northern hemisphere, when they have higher melanin count, they are per capita more vitamin D deficient. And then they started noticing right away 100% of the people who are really getting bad COVID are vitamin D deficient, along with obese. So, okay, so here's the statistic. You can find this on PubMed. It is it's either 35, and I'm obviously going to butcher this. 30. If you're Black and you are obese, you have like a 65% chance of being vitamin D deficient. So
really?
So if we know, we need to be proactive with our brothers and sisters. You know what I'm saying? We need to be proactive. And then there's no education happening. You go to your doctor, it's few and far between we're even going to the doctor. And then you go in for a checkup and they're not testing you for vitamin D deficiency. And then a month later, a year later, when this COVID-19 pops off and they get COVID, and then they go in and they're just getting pumped with vitamin C, which they should. But at the same time, why aren't you putting them on a vitamin D regimen as well?
Well, I think that gets back to like our healthcare system in this particular instance that you're talking about, catering to a white world, right? So our healthcare system is so built on, I think probably white people have been more tested in the sense of like when a pill comes out or a virus comes, it's like, I bet the majority of the people who are getting tested are probably white people. And so we probably understand the context of that more in a lot of this Western medicine. And you're probably right that we're probably forgetting about a lot of like key necessities to know that like our bodies are different. That doesn't mean that our cognitive function and our brains are different, but like there is elements that we just have to like be aware of to make sure that we're all appropriately like accounted for. And like if we have a system that's always tilted towards white people, then it's like shit, like what could we be leaving behind in those different spaces for Black and brown communities where maybe you're more susceptible to something because of a huge healthcare oversight. And you know, I think another thing that you were starting to point to is I see a lot of these governors and politicians saying we need to have a difficult conversation here. You need to wear a mask and you need to social distance and you can't go to parties. where's the difficult conversation of we need to start eating better? We need to start eating salad. We we can actually, if everybody in the United States within the next 30 days lost 5 pounds, everybody would be safer. This virus would affect you less. So that's also so vitally important. Like that is what's crazy when they like close the beaches in California, because like that's such a resource for being athletic and getting outside. Like these mayors and politicians need to say, yo, wear a mask, social distance, fine. You need to go on a walk today. If you're immune deficient, you're going to have to do it just inside your house. I'm sorry. Grease the floor and start walking. And you got to start eating better. We all need to do this together. So I see all my super lefty friends screaming at everybody to wear a mask. I get it. And in most highly dense areas that are most affected by this virus, people are wearing them. It's completely accepted in Los Angeles County. Everyone's wearing a mask. But I don't see anybody talking about also the health component to this. Like, it's a monster, bro. That's the biggest thing, is this thing's attacking our health.
Not once when New York hit its spike, right? And minorities were dropping like flies left and right. Not once did you hear Fauci talk about how New York City has the 8th worst air pollution on the planet. And then you look at Los Angeles as well. Smog city, bro. No one's talking about that. You have something that affects your lungs. Why aren't we talking about people's lung health within these inner cities and the smog and the brake dust that is just eating them alive? It's charring their lungs. You're not talking about that. And then you're smogging out the vitamin D. And then they're not talking about how we get 0% vitamin D during the winter hemisphere, okay?
When virus spreads easier, seemingly, when it's colder in the winter.
Exactly. So we get 0% of vitamin D in the northern hemisphere during the winter equinox. Sorry, I butchered that. Haven't had my nootropics today. Anyways, so they haven't talked about that. And Dr. Zach Bush, he's like, why do you think the flu comes around the 3rd week of November every single year? That's because the vitamin D is getting sucked out of your northern hemisphere at the same time every single year. You know what I'm saying? So like, let's not get it twisted, bro. So when I'm in this red light, right? I'm in there for my immune system. I am in there not for my complexion. No, dude, I'm a grown man married with a kid. I don't care about that. I care about my immune health. Why aren't we talking about this? So I've been blessed to be able to just kind of like put in these situations where even my boy, Phil Kish, who owns Optimal Movement down in Rochester, I've been getting acupuncture for him for a minute. If I got a sciatic issue, anything like that, he pokes me up, I'm good, puts me on the electric chair, I blast off, right? So I preach to the choir, LJ. You know this, where I do my mental health Mondays, and it's all about kind of this mind, body, spirit connection, maximizing effort and getting the results and really tapping into oneself. So I honestly cannot hold people's hand to the watering hole. We've already led them there, bro. We've already led them there. I can no longer do it. Are they going to drink the water, LJ? That's the most important thing. How are we going to be able to tap into people's short attention spans and get them to empower themselves, not listen to the government anymore, because the government doesn't even know what it wants. It just wants confusion and disorder, and then they have control.
You can't regulate in common sense. And you also can't force it in. Like, I'm a weirdo, don't get me wrong. When I see all of my friends screaming wear a mask online, I almost want to not. I never take that into action, because I know that I know that it matters. I know that when I'm in Whole Foods, I have to protect myself from a person that could be immune deficient. So because of that responsibility, and because of the proximity that I live within everybody when I'm in LA County, and you're talking about the air quality, and I do have some interactions. I have been tested 4 times and tested negative every time, and I don't have the antibodies. But for some reason, that type of like top down, like, I'm going to throw the kind of the pillow on your head and force you to do this, it feels weird. And so so many well-meaning people, from government to even friends of mine, it's like, are you just trying to yell, or are you trying to help? And it feels like sometimes people are they're obviously angry. And I get that, like, there's sadness and anger in this virus. There's sadness and anger in the loneliness of it. There's sadness and anger in what's happening within our Black and brown communities, within what's happening with policing in this country. And so all of these different factors are coming together. So I understand why you're sad and why you're mad and why you want to yell, wear a fucking mask. But if you're yelling just to, like, as if you're walking out your window and just screaming because you need to vent, I get it. But if you're screaming with the intention of thinking that it's going to make anybody do it, it's like, yo, that is the last thing that I think is really going to help. Now, having conscious conversation about why we should wear a mask, which I've seen you do several different times, I'm like, yeah, that helps, because you're trying to articulate to people of Rochester who aren't wearing them as much that we need to discuss this, and we need to do it. So the governing of common sense to me always seems a little belittling. And I think that's why the right wing always refutes it so much, because they're like, they're not necessarily refuting the premise of, like, that masks don't help. They're saying, but if you are trying to tell me all of this stuff and just govern it on me, they're saying, well, then I don't want to do it. It's almost a big, like, middle finger to not. And it's sad that we're getting to a place that, like, masks are becoming a political statement, because they shouldn't be. They should be a statement of, like, they should be a statement of empathy, where, like, I'm trying to help you to be able to help our community better, right? Like, that's what we want it to be. But we in these political systems, it gets a little wild.
Yeah, so you've kind of seen me talk about how we've politicized everything nowadays. Mask wearing is politicized. And I see a lot of people complaining, but I don't see people proactively doing anything in regards to, say, we're talking about diet right now. So I don't see you in Revitalized Garden planting this mycelium-based soil system with me and Gary Harbaugh. I don't see anyone doing that. I see a lot of people who want to just complain, but they ain't starting a juice spot. You know what I'm saying? They're not. A lot of people, like, they need the doers to do the action so they can just consume. I just read this book called Ishmael, and it was very interesting because it's all about leavers and takers. And it's basically this man, he builds a relationship, a conscious relationship with this gorilla. And this gorilla in this story, the gorilla is basically speaking for Mother Earth, okay? And it is all about how, as a human being, all we've been doing, we've been conquerors. That's all we've done, is we've just taken. What has that done for karmic law? That has set us back. So unless we're out here enhancing humankind and actually leaving something for them, oh boy, we are in a heap of trouble. Zach Bush talks about it. We are in the process of a mass extinction, and people aren't even considering that right now, LJ. We are literally killing people off due to our poor eating habits, our poor mental habits. Let's not get it twisted. The mind-body-spirit connection works in symbiosis with one another. And if one of those things is off, as you know, everything is off.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
Until we start getting proactive and having those tough conversations, the right conversations, I speak through action. So you might see me talk, but I've earned the right to talk, because you see me out here where I'm just doing I'm throwing these conferences, I'm having these tough conversations, I'm bringing the like minds together and the differing minds together, and I'm kind of like force feeding you information you might not be ready to hear.
Yeah.
So until people are ready to, like, set their ego aside and understand that they don't have all the answers, because let's not get it twisted. Right now, people who have gotten tied up where they built a young family, they've got their house, they're tied into their job, their existence, that's their identity. So at that point, their ego starts telling them, okay, well, we got to figure it out. All the while their spirit talks to them before they go to sleep or when they wake up. I'm not fulfilling my purpose. I'm not doing what I want to be doing. So when we have a purposeless society, what that means is all they're going to be is takers. All they're going to do is consume. They're going to leave garbage at the end of their driveway, waiting to be picked up every Wednesday, and they ain't going to do shit about it. Out of sight, out of mind.
Right. It is incredible when we live in a system like we do that we don't realize how much manpower, energy, creativity, money we rely on to exist in our difficult lives, right? Like in our, I don't have my freedom. I don't have anybody helping me. I don't have my community doesn't care about me. My city doesn't care about me. It's like, there's a lot happening in order to just get your trash taken out and to get your trash separated from recycling and to make sure that street's clean and to make sure that street is even there and to make sure that the lights are on and to make sure that there's the internet and to make sure that there's water running, make sure that water can be hot, to make sure that water can be clean. Like, that's just surface level of the unbelievable existence that we have as humans on Earth in the United States. And there's 1,000 other things that we need to continue to do in order to make everybody feel a part of this and to allow everybody to feel the freedoms absolute within these spaces. But like, you're right. Like we're sometimes taking some things for granted. And even in these spaces, we are even forgetting about the small detail of it, what we need to do next for our body, for our mind to get it right. And it's sometimes even small steps. What is your Corona cocktail right now to be able to fight off this virus? What are the specific things that you're doing while you're thinking about it?
Well, I have been preparing to fight against COVID for the last decade plus. You know what I'm saying? So like, that's where I just sit back and I'm like, oh my God, get these people some vitamin D. Oh my God, get these people a sauna. You know, like, dude, I'm telling you, like, you can learn so much from Dr. Rhonda Patrick. My cupboards, I have cupboards, plural, filled with supplements, and it's all about what is my mind and body telling me today, what I need to take. Obviously, I have my daily regimen, but there are things I throw in as well. And then every single day, I was in one sauna last night, in a cold tub last night, and then after we get done here, I'll go in another sauna. Why is that? I meshed with the circumstances and figured it out when my gym, I go to the Dan Abraham Healthy Living Center.
Oh, nice.
I went, I hit before COVID, I was at 114 straight days.
Do they have cold tubs in there?
No, they had
steam sauna. Yeah.
Steam room. And the thing is that got shut down, so I had to get malleable. So what did I do, dude? I freaking built my own. Sorry, I got to call you. I built my own. You should see my garage right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, like, I'm not playing around right now in regards to like sticking with the script, getting the job done. So my COVID cocktail is still drinking green smoothies, still doing what I got to do, still supplementing every day, still making sure, dude, I'm the type of person where if I don't get my rest, I rest. So I have my homies who are like, hey bro, can you come shoot hoops with us at 6:30? Can you come do our breath expose Friday morning at 5:15? No, I can't. I need to sleep. I'll get my work in eventually during that day.
Yeah.
But I sleep pretty much till 9 a.m. every morning. And I
Nice.
do that. Why do I do that? That's because that's what my body needs. You know, granted, I'm working every single night. Like, I never stop working. So
yeah, you like that. You feel more productive at night a lot of the time.
Absolutely. So
you're productive all day though. I mean, you're a pretty high motor guy.
Yeah, nonstop. So I treat it as, when you own companies, as you know, like, you're never off the clock. But what that does do is it buys you freedom. So you can't come back to Minnesota. So I can come visit you in LA. So I can do that, but I'm always working. So last year when I came and stayed with you guys for like 4 or 5 days, what was I still doing? Connecting with people. We went and got the Besties account. We went and toured what Spotify headquarters. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're still doing stuff. I still had conference calls. I still was making my magic happen. But at the same time, like, let's not get it twisted, dude. When you're made for this life, COVID can't stop me, you know?
Right.
And people have allowed COVID to stop them. And it's like, wait a minute, what was your COVID cocktail prior? This is a human reset right now that you need to be very privy to your health. Because if you're getting, let's be honest, it's known now that you get COVID. It's not the COVID that kills you. It's the underlying factors that kill you.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that right now.
It's where your body was already at.
Yes.
It's not what the COVID ends up doing to you. Like, it's like, it doesn't really, like, there's not much anomaly in this. They're obviously like CNN and Fox, and they're going to grab onto that, like, 120-year-old that, like, it has been on the respirator for 100+ days. And it's important that we're aware that those things happen. It's more important that doctors are aware of it than the common people all the time, because we think that that could be us, but that's like, lightning is way more dangerous than that.
Dude, I had to literally tell a medical doctor, ER doctor at the Mayo Clinic, the number one, just awarded today, the #1 hospital on the planet again, right? What's that, like 7 years running, right?
Right, yeah.
I had to tell this dude, because apparently I'm paying attention, the respirators are not working. Stop putting people on respirators. That is a death sentence. And then, because at this point they're realizing, oh,
what did they have to say about that?
If we give them, no, you're full of shit, and then a week later, oh no, the respirators aren't all they're cracked up to be. We need to be putting people on a vitamin C and zinc cocktail. Duh. You know what I'm saying? But here's the deal. So you have these young, and this dude was like probably like 28 years old, probably, you know, he's probably just got done with his residency, finally got his first big boy job, right?
Well, he's probably way too busy to be sitting around. I mean, he's not putting people on respirators, so that's not his job either, though, too, right? Like, he's probably sitting in there making stuff happen while we have time to sit around and research and think and hear all the back and forth, all that stuff. Because yeah.
It worries me that they're using trickle down instead of actually going out and diving into what's working and what's not working. When you have a pandemic, dude, you need to look at what the countries, New Zealand went right to what works, and now they're COVID free. As a country, we have so much calamity and disorder going on right now, and you have trickle down base from professions. So you have doctors where I have to listen to Fauci. I have to listen to Fauci. Why aren't you listening to Dr. Scott Jensen, your own state senator, who's also a MD? Why aren't you listening to him? He's literally racking his brain, beating it at a wall, like, listen to me, please. I know I'm seeing it front line. Or those 2 frontline doctors from Sacramento who have they had literally seen thousands of patients, and they immediately get blackballed for doing this interview. They went through the data. They're like, this is what we're seeing. And then what they do, they got blackballed. YouTube deleted them, said this is false because it didn't come from the CDC and the WHO. What the fuck?
Well, so it's really interesting when you talk about doctors, right? Because when Scott Jensen initially made his kind of rebunk to all of these different things, I had so many friends say, a doctor goes to school for 12 years. They don't know how to not act ethically. The ethics are built into their skin and their soil and who they are as a human once they become a doctor. The white coat doesn't make mistakes, and you have to trust the white coats. This guy is now a senator. He's not a white coat anymore. But then now we talk about racial inequity inside hospitals, and you hear that 60% of doctors treat black people differently than they treat white people because they believe that black people have thicker skin. So now on one side of the aisle, it goes, well, and it's coming from the same exact person saying that there's racial inequity because doctors are humans and they make mistakes, and sometimes they don't even know their underlying racial thoughts when they're helping someone. And then when it comes to COVID, it's like, well, doctors can't make mistakes because they've been trained for 12 years and they're perfect. And anything that they say is the truth until science defies it otherwise, but you also have to give science time. I think you need to give science time. And I also think we need to give humans time and human nature time. But then we also have these two like totally polar opposite beliefs of what a doctor is and what they represent coming from the same space. And I actually think they're both right, which is doctors have been trained a long time, but they also bring themselves to the table. And we have to understand that dilemma. It's a medical dilemma. It's a human dilemma. And because everything is political, sometimes even doctors' decisions can be political. And people go, well, doctors can't be political. It's like, well, then if they can't be political, but then they can also be racist, what are we talking about?
Do you remember that pandemic video?
Well, yeah, everyone hated that thing, bro.
Where Judy Mikovits or whatever, she was a doctor, worked with Fauci, right? I didn't share it. I watched it a couple times and just kind of just took it for what it was, right? And this woman was basically saying, she's like, listen, this disease came from a lab in Wuhan. We're the ones who created this fucking disease, right? And everybody wants to throw her under the bus, call her a kook, there's no what she was saying. There's no way it spread like this if it just came from a bat. It is impossible. Believe me. Okay. So what happened? She gets blackballed. She gets called a kook. And then back to the Rogan podcast with Weinstein, where literally all he did in college was study diseases in bats. That's all he studied. And when you have this guy on the #1 podcast on the planet, basically reassuring what Judy Mikovits was warning the public about, immediately people want to go political and say, well, you can't know, that's a conspiracy, that's a conspiracy. Listen, you have to, Wuhan has been flagged for basically being reckless, okay, as a lab. They have been flagged multiple times. So you want to just not connect these dots and say, maybe there was human error? There could have been human error where someone in the lab got sick and then they went out and they didn't cross-check themselves and all their relationships, and then they got more people sick and more people sick. It wasn't just some Asian eating a bat's head in a freaking wet market. We've known this has existed. These diseases have come from these wet markets and then they fizzle out. But how has this one gotten stronger and morphed? When it hit Italy, how did it morph twice? You know what I'm saying? There's so much fuckery going on. And until people can pull back the cloak, why is YouTube deleting all this stuff? It's not just because it's not approved by the CDC or didn't come from the WHO. No. There's way more going on because, like you said, this disease has been politicized. So unless you're able to sit in the purple shirt right in the middle and look at all sides and connect the right dots and call BS where you see it, oh boy, people have this cloak over their face and they might as well just call it quits now. You might as well start homeschooling your kid. You might as well throw in the towel.
And it's a tough thing because when we're talking about epidemiology, which is a difficult word for me to say, let alone understand, when it comes to this stuff, I'm an idiot. Don't get me wrong. I have only studied it via YouTube, CNN, and the conversations that we're having. And and I'm reading about it as much as I can in different places, but you only have so much time in the day. And so when someone says that, like in the pandemic video, I just take it for, okay, this is someone's particular opinion. Might be valid, might be not. It doesn't make me want to like demonize them. Like, why throw them completely under the bus? And they did line up enough points where I go, maybe not probable, but definitely possible. So let's just keep it in that space. That's okay. And then on a governmental level, if something is possible but not probable, I still hope we're looking into it, because this is one of those things that by now, this could be one of the highest crimes that we've ever experienced in the history of humanity. Like, let's figure it out. And I wouldn't be surprised if Wuhan did it. It's more likely that this is natural to me right now in my brain.
It naturally spread. It did what it was going to do.
But then I don't believe all these other countries are rid of it. I'm also confused. How would like China not get affected by this? How is Japan like clean? Like, I'm speaking from a person who doesn't understand much about this at all, trying to. I don't get it.
We're missing the main point from that video. It wasn't the spread of the disease or how it came about. The Communist Party of China, okay? We're over here in America where we are let's call it what it is. We're enslaved to China. We are. We owe them so much money. They make us so many goods on the low. Check this out. A big talking point that's been kind of being spoken about lately is Daryl Morey, the GM of the Rockets. Okay, I believe he's the GM. He came out basically saying free Hong Kong, right? Immediately, the king, LeBron James, is coming out basically telling the planet that Daryl Morey's an idiot. He needs to shut up. We love our Chinese brethren and sisters. No one's saying they don't. We actually need to free China from this communist regime. Dude,
right.
All they do is steal Google, create their own, and then basically limit everybody's interactions.
I have so much empathy. Yeah, as a U.S. citizen, I have so much empathy for people living in China, and Chinese people love them. Yep. But the Chinese government, I despise. Yep. I think and I'm trying to be more thoughtful with some of the things that I'm even buying. I'm even I need to look more into some of these things, but what Nike's doing, what Apple's doing, because with the way that we're, talking about slavery and racism in America right now. And when people say, how could one of your ancestors have not known, and why wouldn't they have fought against it? Even though we did fight civil war for a lot of these different things. But even in those other downtime periods of this was going on, we knew we needed to fight against it, but we just kept on living our lives.
Yep.
How would you have reacted in the 1800s when this was going on? How would you have lived with yourself?
Yep.
I think that we still are, in a way that's disgusting when it comes to China. I still think that we're buying brands like Nike and Apple. I'm talking on an Apple computer right now. I'll probably wear a Nike headband when I leave this place to go work out. And there might be more slavery and more suppression and worse conditions than we've experienced on this planet before that is currently happening in China underneath our watch, building up our economy once again on the backs of slavery and racism and suppression, what we're still fighting for today within our own country, and realizing how much pain we cause, to now maybe be passing it off and just bring it overseas, thinking that now it doesn't matter as much. It's unbelievable that we let some of these things happen, but I'm still a person who feels hopeless in the battle against it. What am I supposed to do, really? I still sometimes think oh man, that Nike shirt looks dope. And those Nike shoes are so nice when I'm playing basketball or going for a jog. Where can this compromise start to shift in my brain to maybe start taking real action against a horrible dictatorship?
Yeah, that is where raw minerals and goods, when they are coming from, just some of the pieces inside of these iPhones and these computers that are coming from Africa, right? How do we get it to the point where they're getting paid a livable wage, all the while our cost stays down? Because that's what it all comes down to for these billionaires. It's all about the bottom line, baby. So does Phil Knight need more money? Because it gets to the point where they like more power. And same thing with Disney. Disney is, they own freaking ESPN, and then ESPN controls the narrative in regards to how people perceive sport right now. Every single day, my Bleacher Report app is beeping because another player got COVID-19. Oh no, are we going to have a league? Are we not going to have a league? It's affected the NFLPA and their negotiations with the NFL. I know that firsthand. So we have all of this going on where it's wait a minute, but these players have Nike sponsorships and they need those Nike sponsorships. LeBron James makes, let's call it what it is, dude. So LeBron James is out here fighting against black inequality, all the while he is making buku off of his Nikes that are sewn together by basically slave laborers.
And we're all taking part in that, though. That's the problem.
I don't know, some more than others, LJ, because you ain't gonna catch me. You ain't gonna catch, dude. If consciously,
you wouldn't take a Nike deal right now for $1 billion.
No. Consciously, right now, that's off the table because that's a hypothetical and it's not gonna happen for me. okay? If I was a star athlete and I was fighting for equality, are you going to China and are you fighting for equality with those sweatshop workers? Because I'm smelling some hypocrisy in the air, King James. You get my drift?
I do hear what you're saying, because I mean you're talking about the sentiments that I was even discussing earlier, where it's like it's this weird context where it's like, shoot, like where do we finally step in the middle? And I feel hopeless, but he probably even feels a little hopeless in the matter. But like I certainly think that he probably has more to say about it that would impact it greater than I could. But then again, there's already 1,000 other issues that LeBron is fighting that are so positive, right? So
Yeah,
it's like, how much do we expect him really to do? Because he is doing so much good in other spaces. He's like, look, man, this is somebody else's problem because I'm already holding up steam for all these other causes that do need to happen, and we need LeBron for.
Yeah, so LeBron is definitely doing a lot with schooling and Akron and stuff like that. The dude built a freaking school. Like, what a legend, right? Because, like, I'm a LeBron fan. I didn't like the decision, but when I found out that the decision raised a lot of money that he did for ESPN and all these kids, like, that changes the game. But
you didn't like the decision? The Miami?
Decision. Oh. I thought no. And he's even come out, dude. It was ego-based. It was like, you basically slapped your city in the face by doing the decision.
Yeah, but it was – I love seeing him in Miami, man.
Super teams, baby. Super teams.
Anyway, I love to see him in Miami. He came back.
Since the 1970s, Nike Inc. has been accused of using sweatshops to produce footwear and apparel. Nike has strongly denied the claims in the past, suggesting the company has little control over subcontracted factories. Okay, sweatshop factories. Beginning
now, yeah. So there you go again. Now Nike's saying, "Sorry, we don't even have a control." So I feel hopeless. LeBron feels hopeless. Now Nike's saying, "Sorry, we're hopeless in the matter."
Wow, dude. Okay, so. Nike is one of the, oh my gosh. Okay, so there is a person who basically went agent provocateur. Nike has been accused of using sweatshops since the 70s. Wow. So there's a factory investigation. Advocacy groups engaged in looking at the conditions in the factories in which Nike Inc. Products are made as a way to understand the problems more fully. This person literally went, while his illegal environment could remain open and functioning, the leaders relayed messages to military and police units to overlook the conditions in the factories. These people were making $1.25 a day. Approximately 75 to 80% of workers are women, and the majority of those are in their teens or early 20s. Factory jobs may require women to work long hours, ranging from 9 to 13 hours per day, 6 days a week. They're severely limited in the amount of time they can take off and are forced to work overtime on several occasions during the week. Although there are more women employed at the factories, they represent the minority in the higher paid supervisor position. So it's basically old boys up top, women making $1.25 a day. And yeah, pump out these LeBrons.
What year was this? What year was this talking about?
So this one in 2020, in 2020, the Washington Post, which is Jeff Bezos' company, reported that Nike purchases from a factory that relies on forced labor from Uyghurs. What is Uyghurs? Uyghurs is an alternately, the Uyghurs have traditionally inhabited a series of oases scattered across the Taklamakan Desert in the Tarim Basin. I don't know what that means.
But you're saying this happened in 2020. This is happening right now.
This is happening right now. And let's not get it twisted. You think like, bro, you have to do some deep dive investigating to like be practical. Was it helping Phil Knight's bottom line? Is it helping LeBron James's bottom line to have slave labor? Yep, they're going to keep doing it. And guess what? They're going to limit the news that can get out of China using a communist regime as a blanket, so they can basically just keep it out of sight, out of mind, hush money.
But when it comes down to it again, though, I think that things only change from the bottom up at this type of context. Like, how many Nikes do you have at your house? How much Nike apparel do you wear, right? Like, I still am accountable for this because I still do it. I still wear Nike products. Like, you know, we have to, the only way that these types of changes happen is if we just start stepping up and we walk against the fight.
We vote with our dollar, bro. So it's like, are you going to be a lever or taker? Are you going to spend energy buying these goods? Because if everybody, and I talked about this, and it was funny because I've been saying it for a few years, and I said it again in like February before the pandemic hit. I was like, imagine a world where everybody just didn't go to work for a day. Doesn't matter your profession, you just didn't go to work. You know what would happen? The powers that be would realize who has the power. You know what I'm saying? And because their clock wouldn't be ticking. Everything would crumble if everybody didn't go to work for a day. And then if everybody, like they did this thing, like a blackout, right? And I don't mean the blackout that we all did on Instagram. I mean the blackout of where no one goes and spends money for a day, don't go to chain stores, any of that.
Yeah.
If everybody could work in symbiosis and not go to McDonald's for one day, well, guess what, dude? You're going to take back the power. If everybody chose a day where they just didn't spend any money on goods we don't necessarily need, oh boy, you're gonna take back your power. But we can't, dude. There's too many people on this planet. I'm not gonna lie. There's way too many people on this planet. It's going to be, I am an optimist, but I'm gonna tell you right now, it is impossible to get 8 billion people to symbiotically connect and operate as one. It is impossible with the trajectory, with where we're at, an alien invasion. Dude, they've been literally just divulging all this information about we've been visited, all these spacecrafts, and it's just whoop, flying over their head quicker than the UFO itself.
Do you think we really have been visited?
Absolutely. I think we are guinea pigs. We're just a science experiment. That's all we are.
What, yep. But if we were like available for a science experiment, would you have to come down in a little spacecraft to check it out? Like, you'd think they would have higher levels of technology than that.
How do you know they're not? The Navy is the one that's been doing having all the sightings and divulging all this. They're coming from within, bro. We've only discovered very minute parts of our ocean. They've been amongst us for a very long time. Listen to the Bob Lazar interview on Rogan. He talks about how they had ancient digs that were pulling up UFOs. So these things have been around for a very long time. And here's the deal. They don't owe us a conversation. We are still in, Michio Kaku talks about, we're still in, I think, phase 0 or phase 1 out of 3 phases. And because we're still internally battling each other and at war with one another, we're unable to transcend up to phase 2 until we all start living in symbiosis with one another. So until that time comes, aliens have no business having one-on-one conversations or telepathic conversations with the common man. We don't deserve it.
I like these theories. These are good ones. I like when you fly off the deep end, and I'm not saying that that's not real. I'm just saying you're in spaces that I haven't been before, and that's pretty cool. And
well, I love it because it ties into, like, I love even like religion and how trippy religion is, and like Moses's visions and things like that. I love this stuff. And I also like deep diving in left field possibilities that might have got him there. So like I've been working with breath experts, right? Breathing experts. And I had probably one of the most psychedelic experiences I ever had on the Natch, just by doing a 45-minute breathing technique with this dude, Harvey, who's a coach.
Really?
Yeah, bro. Like you know what dimethyltryptamine is, DMT, blah, 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 right? It's the most potent psychedelic known to man. Gives us our visions and our dreams, floods our brain when we die, floods our brain when we're born, gives kids deja vu. It's a big reason why a lot of kids who are 5, 6 and below see ghosts, see entities.
And women get it during childbirth as well.
Yes. So I watched my wife when she gave our birth to our daughter, all natural, no painkillers. That was the most spiritual setting I've ever seen someone in, and I've sat in the jungle with shamans. You know what I'm saying? That watching my wife give birth on the Natch was so spiritual. Her breathing was just on point. But anyways, Harvey, he did this like DMT buildup with breath for us, and oh boy, by the end of it, we were on cloud 11. It wasn't even no psychedelics at all, nothing. It was just
So
incredible.
he brought your DMT forward just through breath work.
Yeah, just through breath work, holotropic breathing.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I think that's interesting because I am a big like God guy. I definitely believe in Jesus. I believe in
G.O.D. What's up?
and I've had incredibly spiritual experiences in a variety of different ways throughout my life, and it usually comes through prayer, which is probably almost like a way that you get to a type of breath work in a way. You can get to these places, through silence and through meditation, and that's I think why yogis are so into yogiing, and why Christians are so into being Christian, and why people that follow DMT and breathwork are so into that, is because this is where we find our communication with our mind, our body, our soul, and with what I deem to be the creator of our universe, to be able to help me understand my path and my directions and what my conscience is supposed to be focused on. I think everyone else is finding those particular same conversations in different spaces. We're just calling it by different names. And that's so vitally important that, and I think that like some people that have taken like mind altering drugs have gotten to the same space that like a shaman has gotten, that who hasn't maybe even touched like a mind altering drug. I don't know if shamans do that, but without it, but it's just like, this is like a shot of saying, I'm going to do it today. And like, sometimes it's like, it takes a prolonged, like 10-year, fasting and reflection and introspection in order to get to that space.
Yeah, so my teachers have taught me that there are many bridges to the same place. You can, dude, I've found God and had conscious connection praying on my knees. You know what I'm saying? In a very dark time in my life, in like 2012 or something like that, 2011, I had one of the most mystical experiences I've ever had. And that's for me to decipher, but at the same time, it still exists. And it was there on the Natch. There are so many different bridges to get us to the same space, because I believe when we pass through, we all tap into source. And it's this unconditional love that's been waiting for us, that Jesus knew, and he had vibrating through him at all times through hard work and dedication. And he was able to share that message. And I also believe Buddha had the same thing flowing through him. Hence the reason they believe that Buddha has reincarnated many times, and that is that vibration, that level working through that vessel. I believe Jesus has probably walked the planet again through a reincarnated act within somebody else. Maybe Kanye West is Jesus. They don't call him Jesus for no reason.
No, he's self-proclaimed. And I don't know if that's the way to do it.
Hey, bro, how do you feel about what's going on with Kanye right now, and kind of Kim's open letter regarding his mental health?
I think that when I really come to like the thoughts of spirituality and my relationship with God, and I also believe in the devil, and I believe in super negative energies. I think that sometimes the closer that you get to God, you also get like demons coming at you. And I do think that the more of the higher the pedestal that you get on, I think that you can have like for example, like a pastor. I think once a pastor, gets to this space where you're like, I am going to step outside of my comfort zone, and I'm going to start speaking about God to a congregation, and that congregation grows and grows and grows. I think that evil spirits also attack that person more than probably attacking someone like myself that doesn't have as much exposure and as much value to the world in the mass elements of it. So I think that Kanye West, and this is an overstretch, there's no book to be able to really depict this and help me, further these thoughts, but I think that Kanye is going through a spiritual warfare. Because when you listen to his last album, like he knows God, like he knows Jesus, like he has that vibrating through his bones. But he also, I think he signed some deals with the devil before. Like he calls himself Jesus. Like that's so anti-Christian in so many different ways. I don't know what I haven't like researched why he did that. If for some reason he found spirituality in that name of what he did. But I see him really getting attacked from all sides right now. And because I think that his exposure level to the mass communication and to our thought processes and to our understanding of heaven and hell and to God and the devil, like, he's trying to be used in a lot of different ways. And I think he succumbs to some of those negative things sometimes, you know, like when I hear him speak, I actually hear a lot of brilliance every once in a while, but then he starts talking about how Harriet Tubman was a bad person selling slaves to white people up north. Like, wait, what are you? So he gets so sidetracked sometimes that it's disheartening. But I also am like, I'm a sidetracked person too. I feel both sides. I try not to feel the heaven and hell sides. I try to get on the heaven side with that stuff. But like, that doesn't mean that I still don't have compromising thoughts happening at all times. And the thing with, I think, people that are encountering the Kardashians, that's a weird space. There's something awkward about the type of level that those individuals have gotten to and like how they have gotten there. It's like, it's an eerie kind of icky environment. And I think you see Kanye kind of battling with that like weird exposure. You've heard every celebrity talks about like at the top, it sometimes gets dark and lonely and you start thinking about all this weird stuff. So this is a big brain chemistry thing for me. I do think it's a spirituality thing. We have to also support this guy. Like, you don't have to support everything that he says. The Harriet Tubman thing was bullshit. It was wrong. But I also think he's a charismatic person that hopes for good in the world and is getting attacked by, if it's not spirituality, maybe it's just his inner demons. And I really hope him and pray for him. I hope for the best. And I'm saddened by what he's going through because I think he has a lot of great things to offer the world.
Yeah, there's this thing that happens when somebody prematurely becomes successful before their ego has been kicked down, beat down, put in check during a process. That's why you see these Justin Biebers have these manic episodes, fall off the map for a little while, need to go recalibrate. And I'm so proud of Justin Bieber because he has sobered up, he's found Jesus, he has really dialed his spirituality in and humbled himself. And then you have the Kanye West, who has been on top, he's been praised, he's been told he's the second coming of Christ because of his production skills. You know, he's been put on that pedestal you speak of. But unless you're able to do some from the top, do some deep internal work, you can fall on the label of bipolarism all you want. I don't buy it, LJ, because guess what? I've been diagnosed with bipolarism before as well. Okay, the ebbs and flows, the yin and yang of my life, which is okay. But until you're able to really self-audit, oh boy, being a Kardashian, Kanye Kardashian, that doesn't help because you're surrounded by beauty, you're surrounded by billionaire lifestyles. He is a billionaire now. You know what I'm saying? So what does that mean? He's surrounded by yes people. Yes, Kanye. Yes, Kanye. That's all it ever is. He flies out, or Dave Chappelle flies out to his ranch to chill with him and make sure he's okay. What does Kanye want to do? Kanye wants to put Dave Chappelle on camera and have Dave Chappelle make people laugh and tell a joke. Kanye, check yourself. And unfortunately, I get the feeling the maniacal side is always going to be showing its face because he has an inability to check himself. And honestly, bro, like this dude, the limelight he might say, you know, it's made him. The limelight might be the worst thing that's ever happened to Kanye West. And people will fall back on his bipolarism, the loss of his mother. Dude, you kidding me? You have decisions to make every single day. I held my dad's hand while he died. You know what I'm saying? Like, stop it. You know, like, get out of here with that, dude. You can't fall back on the loss of a parent. They would be rolling in their grave if they see you didn't learn from an experience. You get my drift? It is your duty to heal. And that's where I don't have time. When people want to hit me with, because I'm getting hit up religiously all the time as someone who's a doer, everyone wants to play this woe is me card they want to treat me as their savior. Nick, help me get on the right track. Help me get on the right track. First off, you have to make a conscious decision today to quit doing what you've been doing. And if you are unable to do that, what's that? That's the devil working through you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a woe is me person until about 7:30 or 8 every morning.
Yep.
You know, like sometimes you just wake up a little bit, woe is me, you know, because life tells you that there's these different circumstances that you can rely on to tell the world, woe is me. And I don't have enough of them, but I have a small dose of them and I have probably the least amount of them, honestly, in the world. And I still know that those small little elements of woe is me that are still valuable to the world that I could pedestal, they still hold me for a second. Sometimes they've held me for a month before. Don't get me wrong. They've held me for longer time periods than a second. And you just gotta walk past them. And so, you know, I saw this thing on Instagram, and it's a funny place to find inspiration after our talk where we said, you know, go find a friend instead of Instagram. But it said, dedication is more important than motivation, because motivation walks in and out of your psyche, your life, and your style every single day. Sometimes you're highly motivated, sometimes you're not. But dedication shouldn't, because that's something that you stick to every day. And, you know, sticking to some of those principles more lately than I have probably a lot in the past, I'm starting to see a lot of benefits from it. Because it's like, you know what? Motivation is sometimes fleeting, but dedication is something that can be like really steadfast and true. So
steadfast. What up, Dad?
Right. So yeah, Kanye, everybody in the world though should, I think, have some empathy for Kanye, because that could all be us. When celebrities get egos and everybody goes, what a fucking asshole for getting an ego. Come on. Haven't we all received a paycheck once? It doesn't matter. Like, you get just a paycheck sometimes and you're like, ego's in flight, you know? It's like, it's Friday afternoon, you're ready to go. Could you imagine 20 million dropping into your account? You know, 20 million people yelling at you on comments saying, you're the man. I listen to you every day, crying when they see you. Like, I have empathy for Kanye, not only for what he's feeling, but I also have a little empathy for his soul and what it's experienced. I don't think being loved with that type of like woo 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 is that valuable. Like you're saying, before your ego gets checked, that seems scary to me.
There's this thing called tough love that unfortunately it seems as if, I think Kim is probably showing Kanye some tough love right now, with how he came out, and maybe even the whole Jenner clan is showing him tough love. And it might be something that Kanye isn't experiencing, because there were still people who were forgiving him immediately and like not checking him when he grabbed that microphone from Taylor Swift in a moment that she deserved. And then Kanye is, let's be honest, he's an attention whore. So he needs attention, and he needs more, and he needs more. So what he's trying to do is basically siphon energy from people. So, okay, Kanye, you gave us some dope albums. You gave me one of my two favorite albums ever, Chronic 2001 and College Dropout. Okay, you gifted us with that, Kanye, but you also need to gift us with humility. And I'm not buying the whole bipolarism thing. People have mental health disorders, and they fight through it. And they actually get the help they need, and they actually humble themselves, because that's what it always comes down to.
Right.
Taking a step back, self-auditing, and humbling yourself. So right now, your wife is giving you rope to just like get away and stay away. But just remember, you're a father. Just remember, you married into this, Kanye. Just remember, it's your time to do the Justin Bieber. Humble yourself, take a step back, sober up, and just chill the fuck out, dude. Because like, I'm no longer, I love Kanye. I think he's still my banner on my freaking Facebook page, probably. But the thing is like, there comes a time where it's like we can no longer just say, oh, it's Kanye being Kanye. No, Kanye, dude, grow up. You're a grown ass man. Grow up, dude.
Do you know how old he is?
40 something.
Like I want to say he's like 44.
That old? Damn.
Like, so because I looked at it, because like I saw Justin Bieber went out there and looked at to go like talk to him, and I was like, oh my gosh, Justin Bieber is only 26. I'm like, yo, bro, like what a humble stand-up guy.
43. He just turned 43 last month.
Yeah, so you are right. Like there is some grow up, but he also is growing up in a stage that it's so hard to grow up in, man. And like I've I think everyone's had relationships in their life, and if you don't set boundaries for your relationships, even some people aren't always looking for gratitude online, but maybe they're only looking from it with their significant other, right? And like they need all of their significant other's attention in order to feel validated, to feel true.
Yep.
And they zap.
Broken. Dude's broken. Dude is broken. He's looking for love externally, but he's got to find it internally, and all kind of. It's very tough when you're on a pedestal up on top of a peak to be able to actually do a self-audit, because you're tied into all these decisions, you're tied into a business, but you're also you've practiced escapism for a very long time, and the public eye has allowed that. But there does come a time where, dude, he's one celebrity in a cesspool of them, and I ain't gonna lose any sleep over it, because I know what I'm doing right now. I'm trying to be the best father I possibly can. I'm trying to be the best businessman I possibly can. I'm trying to be the best partner I possibly can. I'm trying to be the best friend. When I get the opportunity to talk with LJ, I'm trying to give LJ all of me. And I had this conversation last night with some friends where I'm a very malleable friend where if this friend needs this from me, I provide that. If this friend needs this from me, maybe a little less than Nick, I provide that. That is how I am. That is who I am. That is how I operated. I grew up in a household with a single mother where my mom needed a different me in varying times. And I provided that. And that's the same thing for my sister. And that's the same thing for all my relationships nowadays. Let me be your giant squid. Whatever you need, if you need a little bit of tentacle, if you need a lot, I'll give it to you. It's just a matter of let me be your servant.
That's awesome. And that's a good place to be. I think it's important to just remember that we have to humble ourselves and we have to be there for our community. At the end of the day, that's where happiness really lies, because you probably do that not only to serve your community, but to know that that actually serves yourself best too.
Absolutely, man. And that's probably I know we're talking quite a bit about Jesus, but that's probably one of the biggest things I take from Jesus as kind of this stoic figure. I grew up a Catholic, graduated from Catholicism when I found psychedelics, but no, I still I take from it that Jesus Christ was this servant of man. And if we can all just be a walking embodiment of Jesus in regards to just the principles and his moral compass, I really feel humanity will find itself in a better situation.
I love that. Yo, this has been a real conversation today. I always appreciate you giving me all the energy and time, and you've been a good friend for a few years now, and so it's good to see you keep on booming. Look at that purple. Oh, purple. Okay.
Purple lives matter, baby.
This is the conversation. Purple Politics is about, letting all these different thoughts come into the room and like actually giving them time to discuss them. It's not to say left or right isn't right or wrong sometimes. But I think there's more people in the middle that do need to sit around and have just a place to breathe a little bit through all of the disaster or shortcomings that our countries are having, or just to, talk a little bit about life, because we can't make decisions just so willy-nilly all the time. We're trying to make such like strong decisions just off of one headline sometimes. When I look at the headline and I say, I could see how both sides are going to think, but I don't know what I think yet.
Absolutely, man. And that's where being malleable, I love the idea of Purple Podcast, because when you're malleable, whether that be politically, spiritually, whatever that may be, you're going to come out ahead because you're willing to listen to all sides. And that's what's being basically dried out of society right now, where you are either right or wrong. You're either on the right side of history or not. And that's a dangerous place to be, because then there is no gray area where we can grow.
100%. Well, to be able to follow Nick is at Stationary Astronaut and then Astral Network. You always have so many great things that are continuing to grow. You're having great conversations all